Good evening. You're watching London Live News at 6 with Tanya Francis. Coming up tonight, a date has been set for the coronation of King Charles III at a historic ceremony here in the capital at Westminster Abbey. The Bank of England steps in for a third time since the latest mini-budget in an attempt to stabilise markets and pension funds. We'll have an update on London's weather in the next 10 minutes. Plus, Ida, the AI robot, makes history as the first of her kind to speak in Parliament today. And bringing the passion of Argentinian dance to the capital, Tango After Dark is set to open on the West End. More on all of that shortly. But first tonight, our top story. Buckingham Palace have announced the King's coronation will take place on Saturday, the 6th of May 2023. The ceremony will be held at Westminster Abbey, as it has done for the last 900 years, and will see His Majesty King Charles III crowned alongside the Queen Consort. The coronation traditionally happens months after accession to the throne to allow time for the family and the country to properly mourn and for the preparations needed to organise a ceremony of that size. Well, it will be led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, and we'll be finding out more details in the next weeks and months. And I imagine a national bank holiday will also be announced in due course. The Bank of England have stepped in to buy more government bonds in an emergency move to try and calm investors and maintain financial stability. It has said it will buy more government bonds to try and stabilise prices and avoid pension funds from collapsing. It's the third time the bank has had to step in since the government mini-budget was announced. Joshua Mahoney, a senior market analyst, gave us his view on the bank's latest move.
This time around, we're seeing them step in once again. We're seeing them saying that they will also buy inflation-linked gilts. That is another positive for a pension industry that has come under pressure recently. They have a number of positions that they're trying to get out of with the sharp upside that we've seen for yields. And so the ability to interject once again does add liquidity. It also potentially drives down yields. So this is all about providing stability and providing the basis for pensions to be able to form some sort of orderly basis for their positions, because recently they have found themselves in a rather sticky position.
Well, there you have it, Joshua Mahoney with his views there. The Prime Minister Liz Truss has said that she supports the growth measures outlined in last month's mini-budget. It comes as Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng was quizzed in the House of Commons, saying he's very proud of the energy price guarantee, which came into effect this month and limits the amount households and businesses will be charged for gas or electricity. The Commissioner of the Met Police has announced new plans to crack down on sex predators. Sir Mark Rowley has said using data and technology, the force will be identifying those who pose the biggest danger. Well, officers are being advised to use counter-terrorism style tactics, mirroring the way extremists are targeted and stopping predators before offences are committed. Sadiq Khan is urging eligible Londoners to get their COVID-19 booster and flu vaccines to avoid what he is calling a twin-demic of both viruses. The mayor was invited for the jab as he has severe asthma. He's encouraging people to get the vaccines to avoid adding pressure on the healthcare service. He also spoke about plans to expand ULEZ and the impact it could have on Londoners' health.
We're worried that people may be complacent and lulled into a full sense of security, thinking the pandemic, the virus is behind us. That's why it's really important to remind Londoners, remind people across the country that it's important to get a booster jab for COVID. But also, we know if you get the flu and COVID, you're twice as likely to die than if you just have COVID. We're trying to reduce the chances of people getting co-infections. So if you're eligible, get a flu jab and a COVID booster, because what we want to avoid is a twin-demic. I'm above the age of 50 and I've got severe asthma, so I'm eligible for the flu jab and the COVID booster. The ultra-low emission zone has been a massive success in central London and inner London. It's reduced by almost half the amount of toxic air. We've consulted on expanding it so it covers all of London, because I think clean air is a human right. Everyone should be able to breathe clean, and not just those in central London or in London, but those in outer London as well.
Sadiq Khan there. Now to some other stories from across the capital. A 25-year-old man has been charged after 3 people were stabbed when they tried to stop a phone robbery in the city of London on Thursday. Lewis Parkinson has been accused of conspiracy to commit robbery and causing grievous bodily harm, as well as being in possession of an offensive weapon. Well, the 3 people hurt were taken to hospital, with none suffering life-changing injuries, and the police are still looking for a second suspect. Singer Rex Orange is set to stand trial after being charged with 6 counts of sexually assaulting a woman, an allegation which he denies. The chart-topping singer, whose real name is Alexander O'Connor, pleaded not guilty to touching of a sexual nature without consent. His trial has been scheduled for the 3rd of January. 2 police officers have been charged following a fatal collision with a pedestrian in June 2021. Following an investigation by the Independent Office for Police Conduct, PC Nadeem Patel was charged with causing death by dangerous driving, and PC Gary Thomas charged with dangerous driving. Well, the 25-year-old Shante Daniel Folks died after being hit by one of the police cars, which was responding to an emergency call. The officers are currently on restricted duty and are due to appear in court on the 17th of October. Eco-protesters have been back out in the capital today, blocking the roads around Harrods in Knightsbridge. Angry drivers clashed with the Just Stop Oil activists as they staged a sit-down protest this morning. Police arrested 28 demonstrators and carried them away from the road blockade. This was the latest in a series of protests being carried out in London throughout October, with the group asking the government to stop all new oil and gas licences. Now, as the London Film Festival enters its 2nd week, movie stars have been gathering to launch their newest releases in the capital. Last night saw Netflix upcoming thriller The Good Nurse having its premiere, starring Eddie Redmayne and Jessica Chastain. Well, the film is inspired by the real-life crimes of Charles Cullen, who confessed to murdering as many as 40 patients while working at hospitals in the US. Redmayne stars as the serial killer and said the role was physically demanding. We'll hear from him in a moment, but first, let's take a look at the trailer.
Do you remember working with someone named Charlie Cullen? Yeah. There was a rumor about him. They found insulin in a dead guy's saline bag.
The thing that I took away was how much of a polymath you have to be a nurse. You have to be incredibly bright, you have to understand the science, the rigorous maths, but you also have to have a physical strength. That's the one of the things that surprised Jess and I, was moving bodies, mixed with this sort of emotional intelligence to be the conduit or the empathetic kind of go-between between doctors and families at their most vulnerable. So that skill set is sort of, to have all of those things is pretty extraordinary.
Come, sit.
Why are you being weird, Mom?
You can't just show up and pretend to be a nurse, and especially in a Tobias Lindholm film, which he really wants it to feel like it's happening in the moment, and you have to look like you know what you're doing. And also, we were surrounded by healthcare workers. All the extras on set actually did that for their professions. It's a film that, yes, it's true crime, but it's not one that uses violence to end violence. It uses compassion, humanity, and love to end the cycle of violence. It has Amy remind Charlie that he's a human being and that she loves him. He's not a monster that everyone's treating him, and that's what is able to reach through.
There we go, out in London, Eddie Redmayne and Jessica Chastain there. You can see more from the London Film Festival as it continues this week over on our social channels. You can find us at London Live. Now, just before we head to a break, let's bring you this. Artist Damien Hirst has started burning some of his latest paintings. There are 10,000 of them, which exist online as NFTs and as a real-life copy of the art as well. Called The Currency, he has asked collectors who had bought a piece to choose between the online or the carbon copy, with just over half choosing to keep the tangible art. Well, he's burning the other half, meaning those collectors will solely have the online version. That's been happening at an exhibition at the Newport Street Gallery here in London. Let's just bring you an update on the weather next and see what we can expect from this evening and over the next few days. Tonight will start clear but get increasingly cloudy. Overnight lows of about 9 degrees, so a bit chillier. Wednesday will be a mix of cloud and some sunny spells. Highs up to a mild 18 degrees. And if we look ahead to Thursday, plenty of sunshine in the morning, but some showers expected by the afternoon. But the sunshine and mild weather will be back by Friday. It's time for a break, but up next, the world of politics and AI collided in Parliament today as robot Ida gave a historic speech at the House of Lords. More on that next.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Hello and welcome back to the show. Now, new research has shown that the energy crisis is making more people think about how they can have a greener home. Figures from Santander UK show that over 80% of people think an environmentally friendly lifestyle is important. Well, Craig Phillips, who you might recognise from the first Big Brother series, spoke to me about these findings and some suggestions on how to get started with making a greener home.
About 2,300 homeowners were interviewed about the energy performance of their house, and that's an EPC certificate. And a majority of people didn't actually know what their home was rated. Now, of course, it's a legal requirement for landlords and homeowners who are selling their houses and things now. It has to be done. And what the figures have come back with is showing that what people are aware of needs doing, what people aren't aware of needs doing, and some kind of prices as well. And they found that a lot of people didn't know their own ratings, so they actually didn't know what improvements they could make. You know, we're all being hit by the rising energy prices at the moment. So what we wanted to try to do is try to get people to be a bit more aware of their own home, how it's performing, and how they can make improvements, whether they're small, inexpensive improvements or larger, expensive investment ones that they make savings over many years.
And Craig, when you're talking about improvements, you're referring to having a greener home, so being more efficient in the way that you consume energy. For a lot of people, this can seem quite overwhelming, because I can imagine it seemed like a really big issue, not sure how to attack it. And am I right in thinking that people might think that this is also a very expensive option to make your home greener?
Yes, and it can be expensive in some areas. I mean, it come back with the average price from a low-performing house to bring it up to level C, which is where we're all aiming to get to, could be an investment of about £10,000. Now, we believe, or the survey said, 53% of people could not afford that, and we appreciate that. But what we're trying to say to people is, small changes can also make a big difference over time as well. We appreciate not everybody can afford it. We creating some small videos and some how-to tips of people just putting draft excluders around doors and windows, you know, which is stopping cold air coming in and hot air going out, filling little holes around pipes from the kitchen and bathrooms and utility rooms where, again, cold air is coming in and warm air is going out. These little changes, you know, can be done for under £50, but can make a big difference. But when we looked at the bigger picture, you know, of larger homes that want to consider getting heat source pumps fitted or solar powered energy, we know that these can cost between £5,000 and £10,000 depending on the size of the house. But what also the figures come back with, it's an important investment to their house, because the average house in the UK is expected to be worth about £280,000. Now, the local estate agents, and there were 175 estate agents in the UK who are part of this whole survey, they came back with to say it could put an extra 9.4% value to your house, which that equated to about £26,000. So me being a homeowner and also a landlord as well, I believe by putting that investment into your house, one is putting the value of the house up, which is important, but two, it's significantly helping with your energy bills. You know, we know that energy bills are on the rise at the moment, and they may continue rising. We don't know at this point. So if you can make savings now and long term, that personally to me is equally as good investment. But again, it's making our homes comfortable as well, you know, because we all spend a lot longer in our homes nowadays. A lot of people are working from home. You may be using more energy. But I believe let's try and make it more comfortable and perform better. It's better for the environment, it's better for our pocket, and it's better for the comfortableness of your own home.
Yeah, you make a good point. I think for many people it will be actually having that initial outlay of £10,000 available to be able to make that investment,
yes,
which will be tricky. Another thing I wanted to pick up on is that I think many Londoners will be shedding a tear that the average price is 280 grand. I think it's quite a different story here in London. But do you think that there's been...
I would agree.
Yeah. Do you think that there's been a shift in people's mentalities then as to, you know, if you are a homeowner or looking to buy a house or looking to rent, as to what you're looking for? Before it might have been a garden, but now you might need a second bedroom for it to be an office, or maybe an energy efficient home.
And that is true. And that's becoming the more forefront of people's minds. It's more important for many people to have an energy performance house, a house that performs better, as opposed to that larger garden or off-road parking. Or 5 or 10 years ago, people would think, well, I'll save up or I'll lend a bit of extra money and I'll get a new kitchen, I'll get a new bathroom. That'll improve the value of the house and make our house more enjoyable to live around. But them times are changing. We are, as homeowners and consumers, we are looking at living in our houses and making it more energy efficient. And that is, of course, to save us money predominantly and to help the environment.
Yeah. Craig, talking about houses, I want to ask you a question about the Big Brother house. You did the first ever series 22 years ago. I wonder if that feels like it was 22 years ago.
Yeah.
Applications have just opened for the next installation, the next series. They'll all be headed into a new house. What would your advice be for anyone who's thinking about applying, or anyone who manages to get into that house? How do you do Big Brother well?
I mean, many people stopped me in the streets in the past and said, I've applied for Big Brother, Craig. What advice can you give me? And I say, to be honest, maybe don't do it, sort of thing. And they say, but you've done it, you know? And I say, but I did the first one and it was a different industry then, you know? And I think Big Brother, it served its purpose. It's done a good 10 years with Channel 4, and then it went off. And I think the public were glad to see the end of it then. It came back for a short period, wasn't as successful. But I think now it's had 4 or 5 years off air. I do believe it's going to have a bit more of an impact now. And, you know, I'd encourage anybody to go on it if they want that experience. But what I do tell people is, don't rely on it. Don't go on it if you're thinking you're going to be rich, I'm going to be famous, I'm going to be liked and all these things like that. I'm going to have a big social media following, because potentially you're going to come out disappointed from it if that's what you're going in to expect. But if you're just going in for the experience of it, go for it and enjoy it. Just be yourself.
Well, there you go. That was Craig Phillips there with lots of good advice on how to create a green home and some tips for any aspiring housemates. Now, history was made today in the House of Lords as Ida became the first robot to speak in Parliament. Well, Ida is a robot artist specifically designed to push the current limitations of robot technology by being creative. She's held solo exhibitions in London's Tate Modern and the Design Museum, as well as painting a portrait of the late Queen Elizabeth for the Platinum Jubilee. Well, Ida's speech in front of the Lords Communications and Digital Committee tapped into the possible issues of AI's growing role in creative industries. And Paul has been speaking to the man behind her creation, Aidan Meller.
I produce my paintings by cameras in my eyes, my AI algorithms, and my robotic arm to paint on canvas, which result in visually appealing images.
Ada is the world's first ultra-realistic robot artist. She has been devised over an extraordinary period of time to be able to be creative. It's an astonishing achievement because, of course, who would have believed that a robot could be creative? Surely it's just running programs. The reason for the exciting breakthroughs with Ada is because the nature of AI has changed. The algorithms themselves can make decisions, and that's extraordinary. So what we've done is we've pioneered the ability for Ada to look with cameras in her eyes at a person or a landscape or whatever she needs to look at. And from that, she's able to interrogate it, interpret it, and then paint or draw it. It's huge steps forward. It's never been done before like this, and it's been really exciting to see the fact that she is able to paint and draw. So people just say, well, isn't she just copying, or isn't she just kind of some kind of fancy printer? Well, actually, no, this is the whole point. It's genuinely creative. We don't know what artwork she's going to do. And each time even if she does the same image, it will be a different painting each time she does it.
What steps in your career led to you getting involved in envisaging the Ida robot, and how does one go about bringing her to life, so to speak?
So my own background is as a gallerist. I had a gallery for over 20 years. And it was actually my reading of the current situation, the great artists of all time tackled the issues of their day. So if you go back to the Renaissance or you go back to the Enlightenment, they're all dealing with the big shifts in society. What I realized by reading about the near future, there's some significant shifts with the way that we use technology. Technology is changing all aspects of our lives. With these shifts that are coming through with AI, things are going to get into ethically quite problematic areas. And so Ada is really trying to do artwork that raises some of the discussions and questions that these changes are taking place, so that we can think about the ethical consideration of these changes, so that we can have a very much more remarkable world rather than just going with the technology itself.
I like to paint, and I hope she likes this portrait. I think she's an amazing human being.
Where currently is AI limited in terms of creative abilities when sort of matched up with humans? Are there any limitations that you think it will never quite be able to replicate what a human brain can achieve?
I think at the moment there are a number of limitations. The way that it engages with people, the way a machine can read people. We are incredibly sophisticated machines ourselves as humans. We are able to pick up incredible micro data from looking at someone's face, looking at their body posture. We pick up an awful lot. A machine has to do that, and it's quite a challenge for a machine to do that. But what we're saying is actually in time, even those limitations are going to be slowly mastered. As Alan Turing said in 1951, when he talked about intelligent machines, you can't see that they're not going to be able to do all aspects of jobs. And that's going to be a significant challenge. And we're on the AI race currently to be able to do all sorts of jobs that humans can currently do. But that doesn't mean that they're just stealing the jobs. It means that they're going to change, just like the Industrial Revolution. The nature of the human jobs that are left are going to be changing. And we are going into things like the metaverse, which is going to be a whole new world. So there's going to be lots of new types of jobs coming through that humans are going to be able to harness that are more suitable for humans. But you're absolutely right. We're going into a very different sphere, and we don't know the outcomes of where the domino effect will lead, and we're trying to grapple with this ability for machines.
There we have it. Aidan speaking about Ida there. You're watching London Live News with Tanya Francis. A reminder of our top story coming up after the break. Plus, the unique exhibition hoping to solve the disappearance of hundreds of Jewish migrant children from the 40s and 50s. More on that next.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Hello and welcome back to the show. A reminder of our top story this evening. Buckingham Palace have announced the King's coronation will take place on Saturday the 6th of May next year, 2023. Well, the ceremony will be held at Westminster Abbey, as it has done for the last 900 years, and will see His Majesty King Charles III crowned alongside the Queen Consort. The coronation traditionally happens months after accession to the throne to allow time for the family and the country to properly mourn and for the preparations needed to organise a ceremony of that size. It will be led by the Archbishop of Canterbury, and we'll be finding out more details in the next weeks and months, and I imagine a national bank holiday will also be announced in due course. The Bank of England have stepped in to buy more government bonds in an emergency move to try and calm investors and maintain financial stability. It has said it will buy more government bonds to try and stabilise prices and avoid pension funds from collapsing. It's the third time the bank has had to step in since the government mini-budget was announced. Joshua Mahoney, a senior market analyst, gave us his view on the bank's latest move.
We're seeing them step in once again. We're seeing them saying that they will also buy inflation-linked gilts. That is another positive for a pension industry that has come under pressure recently. They have a number of positions that they're trying to get out of with the sharp upside that we've seen for yields. And so the ability to interject once again does add liquidity. It also potentially drives down yields. So this is all about providing stability and providing the basis for pensions to be able to form some sort of orderly basis for their positions, because recently they have found themselves in a rather sticky position.
The Prime Minister Liz Truss has said that she supports the growth measures outlined in last month's mini-budget. It comes as Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng was quizzed in the House of Commons, saying he's very proud of the energy price guarantee, which came into effect this month and limits the amount households and businesses will be charged for gas or electricity. The Commissioner of the Met Police has announced new plans to crack down on sex predators. So Mark Rowley has said using data and technology, the force will be identifying those who pose the biggest danger. Well, officers are being advised to use counter-terrorism style tactics, mirroring the way extremists are targeted and stopping predators before offences are committed. Now, a new exhibition has opened at London's Brunei Gallery, hoping to help solve the disappearance of hundreds of Jewish migrant children in the early years of the State of Israel. Well, many children arriving from neighbouring countries in the 40s and 50s were split from their families while staying in temporary migrant camps. Well, Queen Mary's University's Dr. James Eastwood compiled much of the evidence on the display in the exhibition and has been telling Paul all about it.
This exhibition is fundamentally about thousands of families in Israel who are demanding to find out what happened to their children. their children were taken from them, often by force, in the early years of the State of Israel. These were immigrant families coming from largely the Middle East and North Africa, especially from Yemen, who were living in temporary immigration camps. And in those spaces, their children were taken from them. Shortly afterwards, they were told that their children had become sick and died, but they were never shown bodies, never shown graves, and never given death certificates. And they had a strong suspicion that their children remained alive. And over the years, more and more evidence is surfacing that raises serious questions about what actually happened to these children, including the suspicion that many of them were in fact transferred to women's organizations, institutions, and then put up for adoption with other families, including perhaps even abroad.
What's the scale of this problem? How many missing children are there suspected to be, or do we not know?
We have a reported number of about 2,400 cases, but it may be that there are many more than that because not everyone has necessarily shared their experience or their story. We're talking about a number in the thousands, I would say, which doesn't sound necessarily like a huge amount, but actually we're dealing with a population which was relatively small. The number of Yemenites who moved to Israel in the early years of the state numbered around 50,000. And, we're talking about hundreds, if not thousands, of Yemenite children who were removed from their parents, and 1 in every 8 families who experienced disappearance like this. So the absolute numbers may not sound huge, but it had a really big impact on the communities it affected. Cases that have been examined by the organizations representing the families of children who have come forward many years later suspecting that they may have been involved in this. We tell the story in the exhibition of a woman named Milian Shuko. She was removed from her family shortly after arriving in Israel and moved to an adoptive family. It wasn't until years later that she was able to be reunited with her biological sister. Stories like this are quite rare. It's been difficult to track down and to establish exactly what happened in every case. But this is a really powerful example, I think, of how it was certainly possible for children who were staying in these immigration camps to wind up being adopted, even though their parents were not aware of it and had not properly consented to it.
And what do you hope will come from this exhibition? Do you think, showing it in London could perhaps, lead to maybe more evidence coming to light, any sort of these cases being resolved perhaps, or is it more about awareness for you?
It's absolutely about more evidence coming to light. Obviously, I'm pleased that the story is getting more attention and there's greater awareness about it, but this is really a story whose ending hasn't been properly told yet. We're looking to find information from the public about what may have happened. And, it's a story that took place in Israel, but actually it's a story that could have a connection to a much wider set of contexts. Some of the organizations that were involved in running the institutions from which children disappeared were based or were funded from North America and from Europe, including the UK. And there were people who visited these institutions from the UK. There were people who were aware of it in publicity material. And there, I think, is a set of questions about whether or not there may be people in the UK who know something about this story. Another aspect of this is that many of the families and campaigners believe that not only were the children illicitly adopted in Israel, but may even have been sent abroad for adoption. And reaching an international audience is really crucial for finding out whether or not any of those children did end up abroad. We haven't been successful in tracking down specific cases of that yet, but there's a lot of evidence suggesting that it was a possibility. And so the exhibition is also an appeal to the public to engage in a conversation about these difficult issues and to try and search your memories, search your minds, think about who you know, what you know, that might help these families to answer the burning questions they have about what happened to their children.
Well, that is the Empty Cradles exhibition. It's open in the Brunei Gallery in Bloomsbury until the 10th of December. Right, we are headed for a short break, but up next, the fast-paced and passionate world of tango dancing is coming to the stage in London. Stay tuned to hear about Tango After Dark.
From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live. From breaking news to headline events, the latest trends and places to be.
You can now keep up to date on daily life in London across London Live's social platforms.
Start the day with an update on the travel and weather, and know what's on around the city and what's being seen by others.
With stories from London Live's team of reporters and your videos of the news moments that matter.
Minute by minute. That's London Live News on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and more.
Find us at London Live.
Hello and welcome back to the show for the final part for this Tuesday evening. Now, after witnessing a lack of opportunities for disabled actors, Mark Beer took matters into his own hands and set up a production company. Well, Mark has second-degree cerebral palsy and has worked as an actor for more than 30 years. Well, he's now producing, directing and starring in Alan Bennett's Talking Heads at the Chelsea Theatre this week and preparing to perform A Christmas Carol at the Actors' Church in Covent Garden next month. Well, he's been telling Alicia all about it.
We are doing 2 monologues. I'm playing Graham Whittaker from a monologue called Chip in the Sugar, and my lovely co-star Kathy is playing Leslie from Her Big Chance, and each of us probably are on stage for about 45 minutes and there's nobody else. So it is a big responsibility when you kind of take it all on board. And of course, he writes so beautifully that you have to develop and create all the different voices for each character. It's very much like similar to the original Shirley Valentine, you know, which was a monologue by Willie Russell. Similar thing, but they're quite of their time. They were originally shown in '86 as part of a series on the BBC, and I think they've been done occasionally on stage, but certainly not recently. And this is the only time, I believe, that 2 disabled performers have actually taken on the roles.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge amount of lines and scripts to be taking on and a big job. But not only that, you've also actually been put on the whole show yourself. You're producing, directing.
Yes.
What made you decide that this was what you wanted to produce?
I think it was basically because I wanted something that was going to be poignant. I wanted something that people could relate to. I wanted something that was going to be thought-provoking, but also very funny. They're both incredibly funny. We're coming through a very difficult time in life at the moment. We're coming out of the COVID. People are going through the credit crunch or the financial difficulties, and that's why I've deliberately kept the tickets to £5 each, because I wanted to open the doors to as many people as possible, and that's why, really.
Yeah, widening that accessibility even more. You decided to make your own production company, take matters into your own hands in lockdown. What kind of led you to do that?
A number of things, really. I've been a professional actor for 38 years now, and I have worked every single year of my professional life, either on telly, film or radio or whatever. But I'd audition for the RSC and I'd audition for big companies, and I'd be knocking at the BBC a lot, because I worked a lot there when I was younger. And I thought, hang on a minute, there's only so many times you can knock on the door. And if you really want to make a change, you have to do it yourself. So that's why I did it.
You speak about wanting to make that change. From your experience of even just going to auditions, how accessible are those opportunities?
They are there, but whether they will actually take the final leap to employ someone, that's another point.
Yeah.
So in other words, I think they're going through the ticking of the box exercises, but whether they actually will give that person with a disability the opportunity is still very few and far between. And I've been incredibly fortunate to have had a career that has been as busy. And I realised that when I started, there were hardly any disabled actors at all. But now there are far more, but they're certainly not with a lot of experience. And then there are a few with lots of experience because they keep working all the time. And it's the balance is not balanced, if you know what I mean. And we're still at the stage where we need to cast people with disabilities, regardless of their disability. We need to cast them because they can act and they can do a job. And the characters that they are given are not focused completely on just what they look like. And a few actors and actresses now are beginning to do that. And that was the purpose of doing this show, really, was because it isn't written for a disabled person to play, but there's absolutely no reason why it can't be.
Absolutely. Well, you've got more coming up next month now. You're doing Christmas Carol, aren't you?
Yes.
What can we expect from that show?
That is in a collaboration with a company called the Black Dog Corporation, and it focuses on people with more emotional and mental difficulties. And especially coming out of COVID, that's been a real impact on people, how they were more isolated and having to stay at home more. And so this is a collaboration with that company and my company, Dramacock Productions, and is going to open at the Actors Church in Covent Garden, and it will be there from the 23rd to the 26th of November.
Well, there you have it. Alan Bennett's Talking Heads is opening at the Chelsea Theatre tomorrow. Now, you might have been watching Strictly Come Dancing recently and have been inspired by a certain South American routine. Well, a new show is bringing a bit of Argentina's famous dance to the West End. Tango After Dark is opening at the Peacock Theatre this evening and is set to the music of legendary composer Astor Piazzolla. Well, one of the stars of the show is former tango world champion Germán Cornejo, who has been speaking to Henry all about the famous dance.
We are so happy to come back to London. It's like our second home. So, well, it's a very nice situation to bring this new show to London. As you know, probably the tango is one of the most important dances in the world, because the connection, that you need to have when you dance together with your dance partner, it's all about connection. It's not just about sensual desire and all of these kind of things. I mean, the romantic way is much more than that. The connection needs to go beyond that point. You can dance with your grandmother, you can dance with your girlfriend, you can dance with your boyfriend, you can dance with whoever you want to dance. But the most important thing is to have a close embrace, and feel completely communicated with your dance partner.
I've actually been to Argentina before, and what I absolutely loved was there would be couples dancing the tango on the street, on the road, or on squares and things like that. It's just amazing, isn't it? It's unique to Argentina, really.
The tango started as a social dance, so at the beginning of the last century, people started to dance in places that were not common. I mean, for today. I mean, they danced at the backyards, at parties, on the streets, on the brothels. Today there are a lot of milongas. The milonga is the place where you go to dance in a social way, where you can dance with whoever you decide, but in this way, in the social way. But mostly in San Telmo, in Belgrano, in these neighborhoods, there are still a lot of milongas that take place outside.
With the show in London, are you trying to take a bit of, the sort of dancing on the streets of Argentina and bring it to London? Is that the aim of the show?
It's about our present, and it's about the revolutionary music of Astor Piazzolla. So, of course, there are a lot of things happening on the street, but in a much more actual way, This show is not about the history or the origins of the tango. It's not about the sophistication of this art form, about the avant-garde music and dance that is the tango.
You yourself are a former tango world champion, is that right? Tell me a little bit about the competition. That must have been an amazing experience for you.
Yes, I won in 2005 the World Tango Championship, and my dance partner, she won in 2003. Both of us won with different dance partners at that time. In my category was stage tango, and well, we won. We are trying that we have in the company more World Tango Champions, and even we choose them before they were World Tango Champions. That is something that I'm happy, because it's at some point it's like you have the view for those couples.
Your career doesn't stop with the World Championships of Tango and this show. You've even appeared with J-Lo doing your fantastic dance routines as well. That must have been fantastic. Were you a bit starstruck, or did you just get on with the job?
Well, we started working with J-Lo and Mark Anthony in 2011. We were part of the reality show that was Que Viva the Chosen. It was the biggest Latin show ever, and it was really a celebration. Later on, we worked with her. We were invited by her to be part of her first concert ever in Argentina. So, well, that was, an amazing situation that we lived, because, not just because we were representing our country and our dance in another part of the world, and with these amazing names that are both of them, if not because we were representing also our country and our tango in our own country when she was here. We were guest artists, and well, that was an amazing experience.
That's Tango After Dark. It's on until the 22nd of October, so still a little bit of time to catch that one. Let's just give you a reminder of what the weather is like this evening and over the next few days. Tonight will start clear but get increasingly cloudy overnight, with lows of 9 degrees. Wednesday will be a mix of cloud and some sunny spells, highs of about 18 degrees. And if we look ahead to Thursday, plenty of sunshine in the morning, but some showers expected by the afternoon. But that sunshine and mild weather will be back by Friday. Well, that's all for this evening. Thank you for watching London Live News with me, Tanya Francis. You can catch more news from across London on our social channels at London Live, and we'll be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Have a lovely evening.